How is everybody? I hope everybody's well, keeping good, keeping safe during this second lockdown in England. Yes, one of the things that I'm going to speak about, and the most important thing, is women's football. I work within the women's game, both with the young people and with the older age group, adults as well. I'm going to speak on behalf of the fact that when we had a break, the women's game, England weren't able to play their game because one of their players tested positive for the coronavirus, so their friendly with Germany was shut down, and it wasn't played. So again, that was something that I felt just made no sense. If you could isolate that one person, then maybe you can still have the other 22 players, however many that was in the squad, still travel to Germany and play. I don't know if it was in the German squad or if it was in the England squad, but it felt like, well, it didn't seem any reason to be done. Hindsight, a week later, we've had the commencement of the WSL come back today. I've missed a couple of games for good reason. I've been out busy working on a video for Believe and Achieve coaching, but at the same time, I was meant to be at a match today, and it didn't happen. So, yeah, for me, there is an unfair situation on this one with women's football. Women's football has been terminated, or grassroots ladies football, female football has been terminated, and I think that's been an unfair situation with the elite game in the WSL and the Championship being kept rolling. I feel like there's an unfair bias there, especially when the men's game with academies, boys' academies, are allowed to continue. I don't know where the FA wanted to go with this. I think if it's down to the fact that they had a lot of money in the game, then they should have looked at it from both sides and said, well, can both continue to run? Well, the answer is yes. You could have kept the RTCs running, and if it just meant that grassroots was going to be locked down, well, then you could have looked into that as well and said, well, do we need to lock down everything? Yes, you're going on the advice of health officers within the government, but at the moment, that seems to be an understanding that nobody knows what's going on, and whether it's the right thing or the wrong thing. People are just taking advice from situations that we don't really know much of. So with the lockdown coming, they've basically stopped grassroots football for female footballers. There is no justification to that. There isn't a way to look at it. It's just a case of, as it was reported, FA's having to report claims of gender bias, and that has come out in the forefront because of this lockdown. And now you're asking the question, well, why did you do it just for female football? If you don't believe that the female game should be represented on a national level, then why pump money into it? That would be my question. And if you don't feel like it should be on the national game, then I think you should hand it over to people who do understand what women's football is all about. I'm not saying that I'm one of those people. I'm just saying if you don't understand it, then hand it over. And don't just hand it over to sponsors who just want to put their stamp on female football because it will generate money. Put it on a situation where you think there's going to be growth within the women's game to potentially become the biggest thing in history in football, because I believe that's what it's going to become if the right backing is given over the next few years. If it's not, then you will see that there's going to be a massive problem within England on the female game after their so-called plan becomes now defunct and extinct. Apparently, a new coach is coming in to head up the women's game, head up the women's team, national team, who is Dutch, and managed to get the Dutch women's team to won the European Championship trophy for the first time, and also the women's World Cup in France in 2019. It lost to USA, which Ironically, USA are the best in the world, but at the same time, England only made it to 4th place, and then found out that their coach, who so happens to be male, was only using it as a stepping stone. Now, for me as a male in a women's game, that makes no sense. That pretty much puts us backwards as males in the women's game. And now I've come to the point where I'm now deciding that I think my time is best used to become a coach who develops other coaches who want to become role models for other females. So now I'm working with another female who's doing so well, and she may become the new coach of the team that I currently coach at the moment. And I think that's the right thing to do, because she's better off in a position to understand females than I am. And I think that's the first thing. The second thing is I think she can definitely do a job if given the right circumstances and given the right time and the right nurturing to promote herself at the top level. That's the last thing that I will say is women's football has taken a backward step just simply because the FA have not considered the problems that come with this lockdown, and instead of allowing football to continue within its grounds and within its means, even if it was just training, I think it should have been allowed regardless. Even if it was just training and you just couldn't turn up to your training sessions on whichever day that you train, it would have made more sense than actually going, well, let's shut down women's football and let men's football continue. It just made no sense. So yeah, that's my shooting, that's my rant, that's my vlog for today. I feel as a bit disgusted as others about the decision that was given. If you want a universal decision to be made, then you should have just shut down all football, in my opinion. It just would have made more sense, or just keep everybody playing, even if it meant that you still tell everybody pubs and restaurants are still going to be closed, but at the same time everything else is going to be working. You know what? You're not going to please everybody, and I think if you kept football going, if you kept all sports going, you would at least get a buy-in to know that you're doing the right thing. So I'm going to leave it as it is. Decision's been made. I will make sure that I'm prepared for my next vlog, which will be about the results and possibly a formation rundown of not only the 3-5-2, but the 4-3-3, the 4-1-4-1, and whatever else comes up in a mobile number that you shouldn't really have. So I will leave you guys to it. Have a great weekend, and if you get a chance, I'm just going to say this: find yourself on the FA Player app, where you can watch games from the WSL, from the Championship, from the FA Women's Cup. Over the weekend, there are a couple of games on tomorrow. Arsenal being one of them, Manchester City being another. I hope you get the chance just to watch some of them. Chelsea being another game. And I hope you get the chance just to watch them, because I think it's going to be massive for the women's game if you get the chance to watch them. Even if you can't watch them on BBC, see if you can get the FA Player app, as it will show you what women's game is all about, especially when you can watch these games for free. Please do so. I hope you have a great weekend. See you later. Yours truly, JBK.